Right, we're back with a Sony 6800. I've got a few spare moments this afternoon. Bloody cold this morning, -2 degrees. But at least we've had quite a sunny day, so far at least. I'm actually getting some action out of my solar panels finally. Okay, what we're going to do this episode is we'll finish dismantling this 6800 so we can actually get access to the frequency counter module. As I've already explained, this is my major concern with this. This module uses special Sony in-house parts, and if that is majorly faulty, that sort of puts paid to the whole radio. You cannot drive a digital radio or a radio with no other display other than a digital one. Obviously you've got no idea where you're tuned to or anything. The radio will still probably function quite happily without one, but it's a bit of a mismatch if you want to know what frequency you're on. So it's actually the next job in this saga is to pull that module and see if we get some life out of it. So what we're going to do, this is where this frustration begins with this set. Up till now it's been quite easy. We basically have to pull the PCB, the main printed circuit board, out of the plastic chassis. We've got to remove the white plastic chassis, which is a sub-assembly. In order to get that one off, we've got to remove the circuit board to get at the screws from the top that actually hold this onto the intermediate steel frame. So first off, we've got to remove the pre-selector module. Fortunately Sony have, in their infinite wisdom, or probably more in a moment of weakness, have actually supplied plugs, the 6 wires that actually plug into what look like header pins into the circuit board. So I've pulled those off. I've made a wee diagram before I did so. Makes it easier when you put it together. There's also the minor inconvenience of having to remove the dial cord at the front here. So I've also made a diagram of that. It always pays to. Dial cord's a pain in the arse at best of times without having to guess how it used to be. And you know, if you've got a brain like mine, you've got a very short attention span when it comes to putting things back together again. So I've disconnected that, so now we can carefully remove that module. I already undid the screws on the side. Unfortunately Sony only went halfway with their service convenience. They've actually hard soldered the coax cable to the first mixer. So unfortunately at that point in time, or this point in time, we're just going to have to hold that module or just let it gently hang at the side of the radio. Now there's also this mess of cables here. These actually go to the frequency counter. I've also made a wee diagram of where these went onto the PCB as well. Fortunately they also connect to what look like header pins. So the counter will work without these. Actually Sony incorporated even an IF offset into the counter for a single sideband. So it'll read, I think it's 2 kilohertz high and low, depending on whether you've chosen single sideband or upper or lower sideband. So that's quite cool. A lot of radios didn't do that. So we're going to carefully, one other very important thing, speaking of dial cords, the FM dial drum, which is a plastic thing, literally just slides onto the tuning capacitor shaft of the FM tuner. What you do, or what you learn to do real quick after you do the first one of these, is to tie the tuning drum firmly to the front of the chassis, so that when you gently ease the circuit board out, the tuning drum won't drop down and all the dial cord just turns into a wicked mess. So just tie that back with a bit of wire, and now we should be able to just loosen the clips. We should be able to gently pull the circuit board out, and there we have it. there's the circuit board. Again, oh God, there's a few plugs and things, but they're pretty much irrelevant when you've got coax cables soldered direct to the board. You still can't get it away very well. This is partly the reason why these are such bugbears to fix. So now we undo the screws that we couldn't access before, and now we should be able to remove the bottom part of the chassis. Or do we need to do that? Perhaps not at this stage. Yes, we do. We've got to get the frequency counter out. So let's go for it. Let's go for it. It always pays to have a container handy to put all the screws and things in. They'll mess quite quickly. You start pulling stuff apart. So yeah, we've got to find out what's holding that. I think there's a couple of screws here. If in doubt, pull them out. But you've got to have a fairly good memory to. I could pull something apart and put it together, you know, in the next day or so. It's not a major, really. To the average brain dead old fella like me, but you know, a lot of the times, you know, it could be on the bench for weeks, especially a job that's for waiting parts to come from the other side of the world. And being down in the Antipodes here, you basically have to wait for almost anything that we order. Even the companies that try and make out they're in this country really aren't. Most of them are actually in Australia, mate. So even that's what, 3 days away normally with postage. So what's holding that now? As you can see, that these can get quite complex. So there's another hidden screw somewhere in this little shoe nozzle. That's all free there. There's a screw there, but I don't think that's anything to do with it. Even if it is, it's inaccessible. So I've just got to look away. As I say, I've got a service manual for this somewhere, but I thought my memory would have allowed me to sort of nut it out. I must admit, I'm a bit bloody slow today. I'll blame it on the cold weather, that's what I'll do. It's nothing to do with me being senile or anything. I've got a couple of plastic clips there. I don't know whether they should. Ah yes, that looks promising. Now let's move that up. You've got to be careful too, all this 30-40-year-old plastic's getting a bit fragile, and sometimes it's that's what I've just found. I don't know if you can see that, but that looks to me like the WD-40 man's been in here again. It's a bit of a bugger. Unfortunately he's missed the circuit board. Normally it doesn't do any harm, you know, at least it stops the pins off the ICs corroding. But yeah, it's a ridiculous way to attempt to fix a radio. I know it says a toolkit in a can, but you know, there's a bloody limit to what it can do. So there's got to be another screw there somewhere bloody where. Let's just gently prise that and see what it seems to be held. I really don't want to assemble disassemble that part too much, because man, that's generally the least interfere with something, the better it is for everybody. That appears to be pivoting on there. I don't see how that could affect anything. There's one in there somewhere. I'm just wondering maybe if it's just tight, because I can't see anything. Anything at all that's holding that. Oh yes, under there. There is something. Under there. How on earth they're supposed to get that off of there? I think you're beginning to see why now. These things are a bit of a nightmare. Usually your profanity works, but in this case it's not going to, unfortunately. Is that it? It's not it either. There appears to be something under that drum. It's holding it. A gentle bit of yeah. There's no way I'm going to take that drum off of there. Hell with that. Right, let me wait. Let me turn you off and I'll get back to you shortly. Because I think I am going to start using some swear words shortly. It's easy to see why that this would be an expensive proposition to take it into a normal electronics repair shop. No, I'll turn you off. I'll get back to you shortly.